Welcome to the Caution Clock podcast. This is the first episode, and this is going to be exclusively on YouTube. But I tried to go and put this out on iTunes and SoundCloud, etc. But it's way more difficult and potentially expensive than I originally thought. So, for the near future, we're just going to be on YouTube. And so basically, why the name is the Caution Clock podcast. The Caution Clock is no more. In the truck series, it would be 20 minutes, and then, boom, there'd be a caution. This is going to be similar. So there will be 20 minutes from the start of the podcast. We're at about 19 right now. We're going to, I'm going to stop talking about whatever I'm talking about. And then I'm going to either answer fan questions or talk about, my opinion on something. I'll do that for the rest of the podcast. But in the comments, you can tell me what I want to talk about next. So, yeah. Okay. So, a while ago, NASCAR introduced through 3 stages or segments or whatever. So basically, how that works is the points go to the top 10 at the end of segments 1 and 2. Sorry, it's getting a little rocky. Oh well. And you get a playoff point that goes all the way until the last chase round before the championship. So I think the round of 8. Yeah. And when the race is over, championship points go to all the cars. And the winner gets playoff eligible and 5 of the playoff points. So, a lot of people didn't like that idea. At certain races, I think it's going to be good because if you're running at a 1.5-mile track, such as Atlanta or Michigan or Vegas or Auto Club or whatever, you'll be racing for maybe hours. I don't know, an hour, 45 minutes. And that's going to really give drivers and fans a break because, honestly, no one wants to sit on their couch and just watch. I don't know. Someone probably would. But as a NASCAR fan, I don't like to just watch cars go round and round with no passing. Because, that might be real racing, but it's not, in my opinion, it's not entertaining. If you want to watch stuff go around, I don't know. But basically, yeah, I think that's going to be good. I know NASCAR said they weren't going to do it for the 500, but now apparently they are. I kind of disagree with that. I think they should leave the 500 as it is, but for every other race. I don't know. Anyway, also in the off-season, Carl Edwards retired, and that was really a shock to many people. And he's such an icon in the sport. It's so disappointing to have him leave. But Daniel Suarez gets a chance at the Cup Series, and that's pretty good. Edwards, I don't know. I heard that he might run for Senate, which is kind of interesting. I couldn't really see NASCAR drivers as politicians. But Edwards seems kind of like the guy if any NASCAR driver were to do it. Think of other NASCAR drivers trying to get into politics, like Tony Stewart. He would just throw a helmet in the I don't know what's it called, what's the thing called that they have the Congress in? It's the Capitol building, but is there a name of the certain room? I don't know. Just throwing helmets. Anyway. Also, Dale Jr. is back, which I think is going to be good. This season, I think he's going to do all right. I don't think he's going to do great. I think he might be able to get a couple wins, maybe 3. But I don't know how far he'll go. Maybe, I don't know. But if I had to guess, I don't think he would do great, but still pretty decent, I think. Another thing is the introduction of Monster into the Cup Series. That was kind of, I don't know if it's a shock to many people, but it's definitely going to be different because the name change and everything is getting basically rebranded in NASCAR. They had a new logo, the new everything seems to be new this year. New bodies for the Toyotas, and all kinds of other stuff. So basically, I think what NASCAR is trying to do is rebrand itself, because it used to be, I don't know, the Sprint Cup Series has been around since, Nextel back in 2003 or 6 maybe, I don't know, early 2000s, early mid 2000s. And I think with Monster and the new NASCAR logo and the new website and the new, they're doing like more stuff because they're getting an Xbox app and doing a couple more things that are really integrating themselves into mainstream media and mainstream everything, actually. And so basically, I think that's a really good idea. I mean, some people want to preserve the racing and classic element in NASCAR, and I agree with that. But, I mean, you've got to go with the flow at least a little bit. I mean, you can't just let yourself be driven by what the fans want, but you have to take that into account as well, which I think NASCAR is doing a decent job of. I mean, definitely better than they did in the past. And I really like the new format, how they like talked to some drivers and did some stuff like that. Yeah, I think that's pretty good. Yeah. So with the whole Monster thing, you saw the new, I don't know if you follow NASCAR on Snapchat or not, but they opened a box of like the new gear and stuff, like the Monster stuff. And I thought it was funny that they had like a flat bill hat, because that really isn't what NASCAR is. But I think that they're trying to make that what NASCAR is about, which I don't mind, honestly. Like, if we're moving NASCAR forward, I have no problem with that. Some people are like, no, we can't change anything. We have to keep NASCAR exactly the same for the rest of eternity. But we can't do that. That's why they're losing, because they're losing all their viewership, because they're failing to connect with all of the fan base and everything like that. I mean, to some sort, they're doing good with all the Twitter stuff. Twitter is a big, big, big factor in helping that, because the drivers have Twitter and they're responding to fans and sometimes getting in little altercations with fans because sometimes they're a little snippy. I mean, an example of that's kind of like Dale Jr. I mean, he isn't really snippy with fans, but he can be, like, sarcastic in a funny way. And I really like that. Like, he doesn't take really crap from anybody. And all kinds of Twitter, like, reporters just... It's so much easier to obtain NASCAR news, too. Like, reporters like Jeff Gluck, Packrass... I don't know. Yeah, and all those reporters are just making it way easier to obtain NASCAR information, other than, like, a while ago, you'd have to, like, actually read a newspaper or go to a news site. But now you can just, like, pull up Twitter and say, oh, here's my NASCAR news. That's great. And it really is. It's more in touch with the fans. You get to see what's going on. What else is going on in NASCAR? Danica Patrick, she made a big story in the offseason with the disaster for her about Nature's Bakery. So basically, she showed up in NASCAR media thing with her Tax Act fire suit on, and there was no patch for Nature's Bakery, and Kurt Busch, I think it was, or maybe it was Clint Boyer, they had their Nature's Bakery patch covered up on their fire suit. So basically, what Stuart Haas said is that Nature's Bakery said, okay, we are not sponsoring you anymore, even though they are under contract for one more season or maybe two, I don't remember. And now Stuart Haas is suing them, I believe, for like $32 million, which is going to be big. I've heard like multiple things from multiple people around. I heard that Nature's Bakery was losing money, and they were complaining that they weren't getting enough internet endorsements from Danica. But I read an article online that she really did endorse them or show their products a lot. And another complaint from Nature's Bakery was about how apparently that she was like posting competitors' products, even though it was just like protein powder. And as far as I know, I really don't think Nature's Bakery makes protein powder. Correct me if I'm wrong, but they're kind of into the bars and like, I don't know, healthy stuff like fig bars. I mean, I don't really know how those would taste, but hey, I don't know. Another thing that's happening is Michael Waltrip retiring during the... Waltrip retiring. Or not really retiring. I mean, he's retired. But this is the last Daytona 500. I don't know if he's actually not going to race at all after this season, or he's just going to, like, not do any more 500s. I think it would be kind of a sort of bad thing for him not to do, or to race more than the 500s in future seasons. I think this should be his last season. I mean, all power to him, but I don't know. I'm saying I don't know a lot. I'm sorry. This is my first thing. This is going to be a little messy. Okay. My opinion on the new format. I mean, I know this isn't the clock isn't over, but I'm going to give my opinion on the new format. I really like it. A lot of people didn't like it at first, and people were like, oh, we wanted heat races. I think this is a good decision because heat races is really changing the dynamics of NASCAR. With this system, you're keeping the racing, and it's still one race. It's just kind of split up. Basically adding 2 competition cautions into the race, which I don't mind. Like, the debris cautions, that was dumb. If you want to, like, call a caution if the race is boring, say, this is what we're going to do. If the race gets boring, we're going to call it a caution. And I know I'm sounding like the caution clock, and I think that was not a terrible idea, but there were better ways to achieve that. And I think that's what NASCAR's done. They've said, okay, the caution clock doesn't exactly work how we want it to, but it sort of achieves something that we want to achieve. It's not perfect, but the idea is there. I mean, I don't think a clock is good. Something I had kind of thought of is say, hey, instead of a clock, let's do a certain amount of laps without a caution. Because 20 minutes at Bristol is definitely different than 20 minutes at Daytona. 20 minutes at Daytona is maybe 20 laps, and 20 minutes at Bristol is, I don't know, a lot of laps. Maybe... I'm not really good at mental math, but you get what I'm saying. And then, like, the lap thing, like a certain percentage of the race. And it's basically, that's what NASCAR did, except just less frequent, like a third of the race. Or it's not going to be exactly a third. Like, the Daytona laps were 60, 60, and 80, which is kind of resembling the All-Star race. Disaster. Don't want to think about the All-Star race. But I think NASCAR's done a good job. I mean, they're not dynamically changing the sport like they did with the chase. They shook it up. I don't mind the chase, really. But what also NASCAR did with this new format is the addition of the playoff points. You get 1 at the end of segment 1 and 2 for winning, and 5 at the end of the race for winning. So basically those playoff points would carry over basically until the round of 8, but then the points reset before the final race, which I still don't exactly agree with because someone on Instagram made a good point. Like, someone could literally win all 35 races, then blow an engine on the last lap of... With the current chase format, here's a better example, really. A driver could lead every single lap of every single race up until Homestead. On the final lap, after they lead every single lap of Homestead, on the final lap, they blow a tire. So they led every single lap in the season but one, and they still don't win the championship. That's what I disagree with. I mean, I know that would never ever happen, but theoretically, it doesn't make sense. Which is why I like that they added the bonus playoff points. That kind of makes that, like, if you do really good in the regular season, it will add up in the chase or playoffs. Oh yeah, I forgot, they did rebrand the playoffs. now that they're called the playoffs. I mean, they were the chase, but now. So basically, NASCAR has done a lot to change, and I think that's good, but, I mean, they can't go too far. And I don't want to repeat myself too much, but some other stuff I'm going to do on this podcast, if it continues, hopefully it will get the support it needs. I mean, I'm not asking for, like, money or anything. I don't need that kind of support. I mean, if no one's watching it, then there's no point in making it. But if you like this, leave a comment below, or like it or something, or share it. I don't know. This isn't the end. Like, other stuff that I'm going to do is I'm going to rewrite the schedule and format of the NASCAR Premier Series, or the whole thing, really. I'm not going to do 3 separate schedules. But on an episode, I'm going to rewrite the schedule and format of the Cup Series. I'm going to shake it up a ton, add all kinds of different tracks, and I mean, I'm going to keep some dynamics, like the 500, Southern 500, Brickyard 400, etc. And I'm also going to do a segment on some predictions in a future episode. And continuing on about that new format, it's getting me excited to watch NASCAR again. Like, in last season, maybe because I'm a Dale Jr. fan and he wasn't racing, I was just kind of like, this is getting kind of boring, I'm tired of this. But now I'm like, bam. It might be just like the excited for Daytona kind of feeling that you get every season, but it's a little more this time. Like, boom, we get something different, something new, something exciting. And some people don't like that, and that's okay. But I think it's a really good change. Like, there's good change and bad change. Too much change isn't good. NASCAR didn't change too much, in my opinion. They just took something that wasn't great and changed something up. And really, the only way we're really going to see how this format works out is going to be like in the middle of the season. We're going to be like, oh, is this going to work out or not? Is the racing better? Because at tracks like Talladega, people might be like, oh God, it's the end of the first segment. Let's go and get those points. Like, it's points to the top 10 after the end of the first and second segment, which is good. I don't really think you should give everyone points 3 times in a race. That's not a good idea. And another thing they were trying to do with the format is trying to get people to, like, run up front consistently. Like, trying to prevent people from just, like, lagging back in 15th until, like, the last 20 laps. Then it's boom, go time. So this is rewarding people for running up front all race. And what NASCAR is really doing is trying to help drivers that are very consistent, I think. Like, not consistent Newman finishing 12th every week and making the chase. Not that kind of consistent. Like, if people are running 5th every race, it's going to drastically help them with all of the championship points they're going to get. And the playoff points and that kind of stuff. I also like the playoff points because it helps you in the chase. Let's say, I don't know, if you're Martin Truex Jr. and you have horrible luck. You're running up front in the race and you win the first or second, or both of the first and second segments. Then it's like, oh great, I have these playoff points. So when I choke and blow a tire, it's alright. I mean, I don't get locked into the chase, but I still get something out of it, which I think is good. So we're running down, the caution clock is almost down to nothing, and we are going to get into the question today, what I'm going to give my big opinion on. So basically, to conclude everything, I think the 3 stages thing is going to turn out really well. Edwards and Danica, that's some preseason drama. I'm glad Junior's back. The Monster rebrand is good, I think. And some people just need to accept change because it's gotta happen to remain successful in the sport. You can't do the same. Like, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over without expecting And there's the caution clock. What I'm giving my opinion on today for the caution clock is NASCAR's new damage policy. I think they just released that today being the 8th of February. So basically, you cannot go to the garage, repair the body of your car, and then come back out onto the track. At first, I saw this, and I'm like, what? This isn't a good idea. But then I realized that some cars just go to the garage, come back out 38th, and don't need to be on the track for safety reasons. They can cause debris. They can kill cars that are doing well. For example, how Edwards and Earnhardt Jr. got into a wreck at Talladega. I think they were both wrecked. Or maybe it was just Dale Jr. But then Edwards blew a tire and took Jr. out of the race. And that was a hard hit, which could have contributed to his concussion. Anyway, to repair your car, you'd have to go to the pits. And you can only be in there for 5 minutes. So, to basically repair your car, you'd have to go into the pits for 5 minutes, get back on track, meet minimum speed, then the time resets and your repairs could continue. NASCAR also introduced the rule that if you finish 36th or lower, you only get 1 point, which is incentive for cars to just call it quits. Because sometimes people would just go back out onto the track to gain a couple positions, to gain a couple points. So 36th, 37th, 38th, 39th, 40th, maybe less than that, will be done. And people that have too many people over the wall are out of the race. I don't think the too many over the wall thing counts for the just regular pit stops, just the damage ones. At first when I saw this, I was like, ooh, I don't like it. And honestly, I think I'm going to come to like it because it's going to be safer, less dumb debris cautions that NASCAR doesn't need, and less cars running around 40th looking like dune buggies, like driving 10 miles an hour on the track. Because it's annoying to the leaders, it's annoying to the fans, they're ugly, and I think it's a good idea by NASCAR, honestly. So that was the first episode of this podcast. Make sure to leave a like and a comment. I know it's a little rocky, but I'm going to try and get better. And I'm going to try to get to iTunes and or SoundCloud or some other things. But I am not going to guarantee any of that. So thank you for tuning in.